Good morning, everyone. I thought it'd be a good use of my time and your time to put this video together. Last week we spoke about SPSS and just gave a little bit of an introduction / refresher course on the SPSS application. And I tried to do a quick, one of my favorite case studies because it does give a real quick overview on SPSS, some of the real good nuts and bolts to it. Trying to create a graph, and I'm going to try to do that again here online, so you guys can have a better appreciation of it. And I'm sorry it didn't work out on the classroom board. There was some kind of disconnection with the Go to My PC application because I don't have SPSS on that particular computer in the classroom. So without further ado, I'm going to try to just go over this again once again with you guys. So when you open up an SPSS window, what you're doing is you actually have it looks very similar to a Excel spreadsheet that you're used to. It's got your columns and rows, your rows here and your columns here, and I put up some data points. The data is about a fictitious company and some information that an HR department would have. And the story goes like this, where the president of the company decides, or actually watches a TV show or reads in the news on a Sunday paper that the aging population workforce is aging, and institutions, companies, CEOs are not prepared, or have not looked forward and seeing what they're going to do and how this impacts their company. So this this president in this fictitious company comes to you because you are in charge of HR or you're part of their umbrella, and says, "Hey, the president wants a nice, clean snapshot of what our company looks like as far as their age goes." He has to see if he has to reallocate money to do some recruiting. That might be the issue. There may be some things where they may invest in colleges or technology to try to get people the skill set they need. So they need to make these decisions, these long-term decisions, and they're not going to do it just upon happenstance. They want to do it with good data behind them. So here's your company. I don't even want to give it a name, but here's your company, and on the top you have. Well, let's look at the sheet itself. There's a lot of things on top here that really helps you generate interesting data, convert data from data to numbers. If you need to do that, we'll talk about this at another class. What I want you to take a look at is there's two tables or tabs in the bottom. You have your data view, which is what we're looking at now. We're looking at the data itself, and this goes right here. We have 29 variables. So age is a variable, marital status is a variable, address is a variable. These are different variables over here. So there's 29 of them. And if you scroll all the way down to your cases, and each line is a case, I call it a case or an employee. We have 6,400 employees here. So it's a lot of data. When you do look at this, if I handed this, if I just took this report itself and handed it to the president, that's going to be a lot of work for him to take a look at. They'll probably hire somebody else and have no need for you anymore, because what they want to have is something simple, something descriptive, and something that's going to help them make those decisions based on the data that's out there. So what we want to use is something we want to take all this data and put in a simple graph using the spreadsheet, and there's a couple of steps that we can take to do this, and you'll see. Rather than having all this out there and trying to figure out how many employees or the addresses, the cars they have, we can actually find out what the average age is and the median age. So let's take a look at that. So here's your data view, and then you have your variable view. Again, the variables are up here. In the data view, the variables are up here. And these are the cases you have here. In the variable view, you're identifying different variables, the variables you had up there, and you're actually showing what the variables are by each column. The name, the type of variable is a numeric, the width of the variable, size, label, if you put a label in there, values. You can change values. Instead of having married or unmarried, you can put down 0 for married or 0 for unmarried. Let me see what I got here. 0 equals unmarried, 1 equals married. So there's some movement you can do there. And the measurement, you can have different measurement types. And SPSS uses scale, ordinal, and nominal as their measurement types. We'll be going over that next week in more detail. And that's so now you build your variable set like this. You go to your data view and you plug all the employees in there, and you can actually have a really good rich information source right here. So let's want to give it to the president of the company in a nice clean report. So let's start out with graphs over here. You got a couple things here. We'll go to graphs, and we're going to go to this thing called Chart Builder. Chart Builder will open up a graphical interface or chart building interface. Again, let's take a look at this for a minute. You have some tabs over here. We'll talk about that in a bit. And we have a chart preview thing, so it kind of helps you figure out or takes a preliminary look at what you're building here. And you have your variables that we talked about before: age, marital status. These are all the variables you can use to migrate over to your chart. In this chart, we are going to be using a histogram. So we'll choose from the gallery section over here the histogram part. There's a couple different ones you can use. I like to use this first one. We can drag this up into our previous box, and it'll show us. This doesn't have the data at all. It's just showing us what it's going to look like. You have your y-axis here and your x-axis here, which is your variables here. And we can start building from here. So we're going to use this and we want to look at, we're going to take the variable age in years because that's what the boss wants. I'm going to put that in our x-axis. Again, this is not giving you the data, but it's showing you what it's going to look like. And we're okay with that. All right, so we just press OK on that. Now when we come up, it starts building it, and what we actually have is, let me see if I can scroll that down some. What we have is a nice chart here of a simple histogram of ages and years. Now again, this is a little bit tough to read because there's a lot. There is a almost a skew to the left bell curve here. We can see that. But the data points are very tight, very tough to read. On this corner, you actually see from the data we had, we can actually see the mean. So the mean in age is about 42 years old. The standard deviation, which we'll be going over, is about 12.29. And again, our population is the number of employees we have, which was 6,400. We looked at that before. Okay. So so this is good, but it's not the best thing. So what we want to do is we want to bring our chart builder up again, or chart editor. So we'll go right into the box itself, somewhere in the middle. Just double click that, and you're going to get a chart editor. So we want to fix this chart up. Let me see how I want to fix it up. Let's see. First of all, let's double click that one and bring up the properties in the chart editor. So we double click twice. We double click to get the chart editor up, and now we want properties, so we double click that. Okay, we can't do that. All right, so we got to double click here twice. The properties box brings another little box here to help you. Chart size, fill and border, binning, and variables. We're going to go to charts. Let's go to fill and border first. I do like this color, but I do want to change it. So I can fill, I press the fill box. It'll show it's pointing at, I'm going to go with a nice light green color. And then in my borders, I want to have a dark green color. Okay. And let's see, what else do I have? So I'm going to just click apply to this and see what happens. So that's okay. It's still a lot of lines here. It's tough to read. So we're going to go to this other part of the property is called binning. And what binning does is it sort of grabs a number of slices of those data points and puts them together. So you don't have to have so many lines there. We can put them together by 10-year differences, so we'll have a 10-year break. Everybody within this 10-year frame will get one line, and so on. So we're going to go to binning here, and we're going to go to custom, and my interval width, I want to say 4, and let's just apply that. See what happens. All right, so that looks really cool. We're starting to get a nice chart for the president to look at. And he still may not have a problem with it. First of all, I think he's going to want to know what this means, and you want to give a good presentation chart just so they can actually take a good look at it. So we'll close this out here, and we'll go back to. So I think from the case study, the president wants to know what the age. Age population is for 25 years old. How many 25-year-old folks we have here? Again, I think the case study was for a technical company, a technology company. So they want to see how many young people are in the field. Technology is historically a younger people's game. And once we keep rolling them out, we want to make sure that we have a good supply of those folks. So let's go to, let's start with the title. Let's build a title on this thing. So I can just click on here and say age of employee. Okay, so now I have age of employees. I can take this simple histogram out. I don't need to put that in there. Let's see if I can get it out here. Okay, so it's not going. We'll just put age in years. Age in years, that's fine. Okay, that looks a lot better. Oh, let me move this up a little bit. There we go. Perfect. All right, so border style, we could have the width one. Well, let's just close that out again. And again, we want to look at the options. I want to put a reference line where 25 years old hits. So let's take a look at this here. So it automatically defaults to position of 50. That's just an automatic default value that the SPSS has. I guess they're looking at between 0 and 100, looks at the middle, so they go to 50. What our president wants to know is how many 25-year-olds we have on our payroll. So I'll just put 25. I want to attach a label to that line so he doesn't forget what that line is. Okay, and here we go. So now we see a really cool chart here. When he gets it, and he's going to give it to his wonderful cabinet members, he's going to be able to present it like this, where he says, hey, take a look at this. These are our 25-year-olds here. And this is where our employees are running here. Is there a need to start looking at the future and try to make sure that the technology that we have here, the talent pool is going to be outside waiting to get into this talent pool? So these are the kinds of questions that come up in strategic planning, trying to get this information out there. That's where we're at with that. So close that. I can close this guy. And now we have a really good graphical representation of this age of employees. I hope this was useful for you. And again, when you're dealing with a lot of data that can be very difficult to read, and if you're trying to present it to someone or a group or entity or trying to get a grant, you're putting a proposal together, you want to have a lot of data to support your work, but you also want to have something that represents this data to make sure that the end user, the reader, doesn't have to get bogged down by a bunch of numbers or dates or addresses or anything like that. You want to get that one subject in there, and you want to get those points in that's going to be representative of what you're trying to accomplish. These can be make or break deals for getting grants or getting programs started or passing a bill or whatever you have to do. Or it could be something where you are looking at a study that you're conducting to validate some of the work you're doing. So SPSS is a wonderful tool. It gets the heart of a lot of issues, and it makes things a lot easier for the researcher. I hope this was helpful, and I'll post this online so you guys can take a look at it. Okay? Thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend.